Thank you so much for inviting me, Nick, and really excited to be here with all of you guys. So, yeah, we basically help people source products from alternative emerging sourcing markets such as India and Vietnam. And we're also looking at other markets like Thailand. And as everybody knows, China is becoming more competitive, production costs are increasing. And so it's time to like not put all your eggs in one basket, diversify your sourcing. And Nick, as you rightly said, the money is in the sourcing and not in the selling. So I've got some slides to share. Let me just share my screen over here and get started. So we're going to be talking about how you can source from India and how you can gain a competitive edge. So the topics that I'm going to be covering are, first of all, why you need to source from India, what types of products you can source, and then also how India Sourcing Network can help you with sourcing from India. So I think I have about 10 minutes. So let's get started. All right, so quick background about myself. I've been working in the Asia sourcing industry for over 24 years. I know I look very young. Just kidding. But yeah, I worked in India, in the Philippines, in China. I was in China for 10 years, in Singapore, and now I've moved back to India after 20 years to help people source products from India. And we have a sourcing agency where we help people source from India and Vietnam, and we also organize sourcing trips to India and Vietnam. All right, so why should you consider sourcing from India and why now? So the number one reason why people are considering, alternative markets in the current situation is, first of all, there are no trade tariffs on imports into the US from India or Vietnam. So as you guys know, there are, high Trump tariffs on products that are imported from China, specifically into the US. But there's no such, high import duties from other countries. So that is one big advantage. And in fact, one of the reasons I started this whole India sourcing business was when there was this trade war between China and the US in 2018, when the whole trade war started. That's when I saw the opportunity and I started this whole business. And it's just, been growing over the last 5 years. Also, India has better geopolitical relations with the West. So, there's more stability in the relations, and India has a lot of free trade agreements, for example, with European countries, Australia, UK, as well. And a lot of buyers are, not putting all their eggs in one basket because you just never know what might happen with the whole situation in China. What if China, there's some instability in the region in Asia, with Taiwan and China, that is sort of putting all your supply chain at risk. And this is something that not only, it's not that we're talking about this because we are helping you source from India. It's because, these situations are occurring in the world that our business exists, right? That we are promoting India and Vietnam because this is a real risk. And in fact, a lot of larger buyers who are not e-commerce Amazon sellers, but general importers, brands, retailers, everybody is actually looking to diversify their sourcing. And I mean, there is no other China as such in the world currently, because China, of course, manufactures anything and everything, especially electronics. But a lot of different countries are emerging, and sourcing in the future is going to be more fragmented with different countries specializing in different, products. So you must have seen these headlines in the news lately, and a lot of us are talking about these, this issue over here. If Donald Trump does come back into power, there is a real threat of maybe, the trade war really escalating. So this is something that large buyers are really preparing for. And we're getting emails and calls every day from, big companies who want to diversify their sourcing. Also, production costs in China have been increasing. And, this is quite natural for any production hub when it develops, when it moves up the value chain, like the labor costs increase and people expect more salaries. Whereas in India and other countries like Vietnam, labor costs are still low. So that is a competitive advantage that you have when you source from these countries, especially if your product is labor intensive. So if you're making, for example, something that requires cutting and sewing, like apparel or a bag, or fashion accessories or belts, things that require manual labor, you can really produce them cheaply in India or Vietnam because labor is less expensive. I mean, India has 1.4 billion people, right? So whenever there's a problem, we throw people at the problem. We have tons of cheap labor. So here's a chart that shows the minimum wage comparison across different countries. And as you can see, China's wages are significantly higher than all other countries, specifically India and Vietnam. So this is an advantage that India has. In fact, a lot of the larger brands, like apparel brands, for example, have been moving their low-end production out of China for, I mean, this is not a recent phenomena. This has been happening for like, 5-10 years. As production costs in China were increasing, they were going to lower cost destinations such as Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka for apparel production. Even for shoe production, for example, Nike set up massive factories in Vietnam, because of rising production costs. So here's a study that was done a couple of years ago where this global supply chain director at Procon Pacific, he did a case study where he produced the exact same product in 3 different countries. And as you can see over here, if China, the cost was 0, Vietnam was minus 11%, and India was minus 37%. So of course, this does not is not accurate for each and every product category. I mean, China has economies of scale because of which it can produce very low costs. Also, there are a lot of raw materials available in China. But if the raw materials are available locally in India and Vietnam, if it is a labor-intensive product, if there is competition, if the supply chain is well developed, then Vietnam and India can be very competitively priced compared to China. Also, we found that generally in India, there's better IP protection. And those of you who source from China, I'm sure you've either experienced this yourself or you've heard of stories where people develop a unique product, they even maybe have a patent on it, and they find a factory to produce the product. And once they give the factory the product, sometimes even before their production is finished for the product is already selling on Amazon. And the reason for this is a lot of Chinese manufacturers are selling directly on Amazon D2C. However, in India, currently not a lot of factories are selling D2C. They prefer to focus on B2B, and they prefer to manufacture in large quantities. And that is the situation as of today. And this is why they're very protective of their buyers' designs. In fact, when we used to do a lot of live streams with suppliers from India, and they used to be particular about their buyers' products, because we used to ask them to show their showrooms and all, and then they used to say that, no, but we have our buyers' products, we can't really show the showroom. So they are particular about their buyers' designs, and your designs are better protected if you are sourcing from India. Also, there are a lot of unique products that you can source from India, and this is one of the biggest advantages that you have when you source from India. So there are a lot of, for example, handcrafted products that are not available in other countries. For example, these products are made from natural materials like metal, wood, glass. A lot of different types of fabrics are available too, and I have a map to show all of the different techniques that I use to make, produce these different fabrics. And the reason for these unique products is because India has a lot of artisan clusters throughout the country where these artisans specialize in certain types of products. So for example, there's a production hub called Moradabad in North India, which is known as the metal production hub. And this city, in fact, I'm visiting the city tomorrow to visit some factories, but this city actually has thousands of suppliers that manufacture only metal products. And they have been manufacturing these products for hundreds of years, even for the kings and queens that used to rule the country a couple of hundred years ago. So they have learned these skills over generations. And the skills have been passed from one generation to the other. And what's happening now is that there are factories or exporters that have set up, production units, and they're leveraging the skill sets of these artisans. So all of this handcrafted products, they are being produced at scale. It's not like they are, like 5 artisans sitting together and making 5 pieces, in a day. It is being manufactured at scale. So you'll find really gigantic, big factories that have, all of these CNC machines and woodworking machines, and they use skilled artisans from the city to work on the on the products. So it's and a lot of these like all of these exporters, they understand export requirements, they understand the design requirements of the US, of Europe. So all the products that you find in these factories, they will be according to the taste of Western market. So it's not like because they are being produced by these artisans, they have sort of an Indian design to it. They are all produced according to European or US or Western standards. All right, so let's talk about the different types of products that you can source in India. Now, of course, a lot of the products that Amazon and e-commerce sellers are having success with are mostly home products and gift products, and a lot of kitchenware, tableware, those kinds of products too. India also does like electronic components and some maybe industrial products. So we're not going to be covering those. These are the product categories that are more relevant for e-commerce sellers. So there's furniture items as well. Now, furniture, of course, is very difficult to do for e-commerce, but then there's flat pack furniture that is becoming very popular nowadays, and especially smaller furniture like accent furniture or side tables. Those are being sold on Amazon. Furnishings, now this is a huge category. There's lots of specifically cotton furnishings that are coming out of India, such as rugs, cushion covers, a lot of different types of carpets. That is one of the biggest categories of export from India. Then different types of carpets, rugs, eco-friendly products. So if you are into the eco-friendly niche, then India is a great place to source these products, because a lot of the products are made from natural materials. And in fact, a lot of suppliers also manufacture in a sustainable way. So for example, there are quite a few suppliers that use solar panels in their factories. So not only are the products sustainable, but they're also being produced in a sustainable way. So that can add to the story of your eco-friendly brand if you are focusing on these products. Then there's a lot of fashion products like jewelry, accessories, footwear, textiles, and apparel. Now, this is one of India's biggest categories, and specifically cotton and other types of natural materials. Of course, there is polyester and man-made materials too, but India really specializes in natural materials such as cotton, denim, silk, wool, specifically organic cotton. And in fact, India has more GOTS certified factories than China. So if you're doing anything in organic cotton, then India is really the place to go. You'll find a lot of competitive pricing and a lot of different variety in terms of the textiles and also the products that are manufactured. Now, leather is another big category. So there's clothing, bags, wallets, pet products, equestrian products, and there are different types of leather available. So for example, there's softer sheep leather that can be used for jackets and garments, or there's buff leather that has a more rough and tough look that's mostly used for men's accessories. So all different types of leathers, and shoes, of course, as well. I haven't mentioned that over here. Food items is a very interesting category too, and a lot of Amazon sellers are actually finding success in superfoods like ashwagandha or turmeric or other types of natural herbs and supplements. Tea, coffee, spices. Tea is also very interesting. So India has a lot of different production centers for tea, and what we're also finding is that a lot of people are producing their own blends in India of different types of teas, and they're customizing the tea. So for example, they'll have tea that is infused with certain herbs that have health boosting benefits, so for example, tea that can calm you, or tea that's, good for your blood pressure, for example. So there's so many different herbs that are available in India that you can actually blend with tea and come up with your own different unique twist. So on subsequent slides, I just have a few representations of the different types of products that can be found. So these are some of the glass, metal, wood, marble. Now, a lot of these products are actually sold in retail. So, like these big glass vases, for example, there are a lot of large retailers like TJ Maxx, etc., that source these products from India in containers, in very large volumes. And it's only recently in the last 4 or 5 years that Amazon sellers have been sourcing from India, and they have sort of discovered India as a production hub. But retailers have been buying these products for, decades from India. These are some of the kitchen, dining, ceramics kind of products. And India really specializes in mango wood. So you won't find mango wood in China. China mostly does bamboo wood or acacia. And even in bamboo wood, China will do engineered bamboo wood. India is not very good at engineered bamboo wood. You can find that in Vietnam, but India specializes in mango and acacia wood. Mango wood is considered a very eco-friendly wood because the tree is cut only after it reaches its fruit-bearing age. So it's not like, trees are cut down or there's deforestation for timber. So that's why mango wood is considered very, eco-friendly and sustainable. Indian suppliers are also really good at combining different materials. So, for example, this tray over here that you see, it's got marble on either side and then wood in the middle. And then over here, there's resin in the middle, and then there's wood on this wooden tray. So this is something that Indian suppliers are really good at, experimenting with different materials and mixing different media. These are some of the leather items that I was mentioning. And in fact, these leather diaries are very popular. And I was at a trade show recently in the US, the ASD Market Week show, and there was this one stall that had literally hundreds of different types of leather diaries, all from India. And, this is a category that is quite popular in the US. Then, of course, as I mentioned, footwear, bags, equestrian products, pet products in leather. Then some of the furniture items, you find a lot of antique furniture as well. There is this very specific market for antique furniture in the US and Europe as well. And in fact, we are helping a French retailer buy products from India, for their store, and they really specialize in antique furniture. Jewelry, fashion accessories. Now, India does a lot of semi-precious stones. So there's a city in North India called Jaipur that specializes in semi-precious stones. And there's also a lot of sterling silver, gold, and even diamonds. If somebody is very ambitious, that's something you can consider too. Fashion garments that are made from mostly organic cotton, silk, linen, and wool. So I've talked about this earlier. A lot of pet products, in fact, a lot of eco-friendly pet products as well. So these are really cute. These are metal, pet urns. These are doing quite well. And a lot of pet bowls and of course, pet beds and other fabric-based pet items. Eco-friendly products. Now, this is a category that where there's a lot of innovation happening in India. So, for example, this bag over here is made from cork. Cork is basically, from the bark of a tree. It's a very good eco-friendly material, and it's being positioned as an alternative to PVC or even genuine leather. And over here, you see these wine bags. These are also made from cork. There are other materials that companies are experimenting with. So, for example, cactus fibers or banana fibers or apple fibers. And this is an area that's very interesting. And as of now, these materials are not really mass market materials, so the prices are higher. But down the line, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, these will be mass produced. And in fact, one of the materials that's also very popular is recycled PET. And I don't know if I have an image of that over here, but it's basically, the water bottles that we use, disposable water bottles, those are recycled and they are made into fiber and then woven into fabric. And then there are different types of products that are made from recycled PET. Again, that's very, eco-friendly. A lot of macrame products, bedding, bedspreads, rugs, as I mentioned, cushion covers. Now, one of the things that India specializes in is using different techniques in cushion covers. And one of the reasons India can do this is because it's done by hand. So you can actually, combine, let's say, beading and embroidery and tufting and all of these different techniques on a cushion cover or a different type of, home furnishing item and get very interesting effects. Now, fabrics, huge variety of fabrics, again, available. And over here, this is a block printed fabric. So there's, of course, regular types of fabric that are printed at a textile mill, but there's also handcrafted fabric that are maybe block printed, or there's tie and dye, and there's embroidery and beading, like lots of different embellishments. So here's a map that shows all the different types of unique indigenous fabrics that are found in India that are unique and special to India. And each state specializes in a different type of fabric. So for example, in North India over here, you find this embroidery that's known as chikankari. This is very popular, and it's mostly done in white thread on very light colored fabric that is usually pink or yellow or light blue, really pale colors. So that's a specialty over here. In the West, there's things like mirror work and tie and dye. There's a lot of beadwork as well. The South mostly does silks, and then the North mostly does woolen items. And there's also pashmina shawls, or kashmir, as it is also known as. Those are very popular in the North. So there's just so much variety available in India in terms of the fabrics. If you are a creative person, there's so much that you can do with these fabrics. It's just incredible. And a lot of these items are also created on hand looms. So they're not necessarily created on power looms. A lot of them are created on hand looms, which means that they have lower MOQs. So that's another advantage that you have when you're sourcing from India. A lot of these products have low MOQs. In fact, a lot of the home decor items also have low MOQs. You can, source as low as 50, 100 pieces for certain items because they're handmade. There's no, molds required. And so that's why suppliers are very flexible in terms of the MOQ. Also, suppliers have something known as MOV, which is a minimum order value. And what that means is that they say you can source, let's say $5,000 worth of products, and you can mix and match different SKUs. So that is very advantageous when you are maybe starting out and you want to test different SKUs, or if you are, just venturing into a certain category and you don't want to invest a lot of money in one specific SKU, but you want to spread your risks around. So this is another map that just shows all of the different key production hubs specifically for Amazon e-commerce, products specifically. So as you see, there are different production hubs that specialize in different materials. So this one produces ceramics, for example. Then here's home furnishings, all textile-based, mostly cotton. Kanpur is known for leather. Firozabad is for glass. Agra is for marble and stone products. So there are different production hubs. In fact, in the south, there's one production hub that does coir. Now, coir is basically a material that is made from the husk of coconut. And a very popular product that is made out of coir is doormats. And they're exported in very high volumes from this tiny city over here in South India to the US, Europe, everywhere. In fact, IKEA's largest supplier in Asia is from this city over here. All right, so that's it for my session. And this is a free ebook in case anyone's interested. It talks about all the different types of products that you can source in India. So most welcome to download this ebook. And real quick, before I wrap up, how we help you source from India, I've also mentioned it, but we have done for you sourcing services where we can manage the entire sourcing process for you, starting from finding the supplier to negotiating, placing orders, sampling, and even quality control. We also do group and private sourcing trips. Our next trip to Vietnam is coming up in April, and we also have one coming up in October to India. And we also offer sourcing consultancy services. You can find more information on our websites, indiasourcingtrip.com, indiasourcing.net, and vietnamsourcingtrip.com. All right, thank you so much.